Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everything Arsenal. We are back again with Cozy for another podcast. Fabrizio Romano has confirmed that Arsenal have made an official inquiry for Calafiori, whose Italy have just been eliminated from the Euros. We'll be talking about Alexander Isak once again, a name that you didn't think you're going to hear about again, but Newcastle having to sell. That name is back on the radar. We'll also be talking about Smith Rowe and a lot more. But first, Cozy, how are you?
I'm all right. How's everyone doing? I've been just watching the Euros, knockout stages, and I think the intensity is just different. The level of entertainment is just different. I tell you, the knockouts plus July, I'm in the best position.
Thank you for bringing up the Euros. Now, let's go straight into the Calafiori news. Italy were absolutely poor last night, and one of the players that was missing from that team was
Calafiori.
Jorginho
Yeah.
first, and a player who could end up being an Arsenal player. Calafiori was suspended. Now, the latest from Fabrizio Romano is that for Calafiori, he was speaking on Give Me Sports. For Riccardo Calafiori, Arsenal have made an inquiry to understand the situation of the player. So, first of all, if this do you expect now that they're out of the Euros, do you expect this deal to be progressing quickly? Whichever team is going to end up at, do you think by the next 1 week we already know Calafiori is going to come to Arsenal or not?
100%, because when you think about the market right now, it is very dry. And again, that means that a couple of clubs want to get their deals done quickly. Those clubs that are renowned for getting their deals done quickly, they have less than 21 days, right? Arsenal have less than 21 days to go to preseason. Man United have less than 21 days to play Arsenal in preseason, and Liverpool have less than 27 days to play Arsenal in preseason. So all these clubs have got to go and get their deals done quickly. When you think about the Riccardo Calafiori deal, Napoli, Italy's exit out of the Euros is a blessing in disguise for Arsenal, for Juventus, for Man United, for all the clubs that really need a centre back. I don't think it's going to be only Arsenal and Juventus at the forefront. I think there's so many clubs that are going to, try to come and get him, especially with the fact that they still think Bologna will actually, reduce that price. Bologna as well. You want to know the situation of your players. Zaxi is going to leave. What happens with Calafiori? What happens with Ndoye? At Switzerland, he's still in the Euros, but I doubt they will go further than the quarterfinals. So when you think about all that, you've got to you've got to understand that the next 1 or 2 weeks is where Bologna set the ultimatum. You either tell us your final decision, or we'll give you a final decision, which is definitely selling. I think they are looking at Calafiori as prime, a prime asset. The difference between Calafiori and Zaxi for them is Calafiori doesn't have a release clause, right? So they could price him at 60 million. They could sell him to the highest bidder in Italy or even out of Italy. It will depend. With players like Zaxi, he's got a release clause. So they are not going to really get a lot of money, despite the fact that he had a very good campaign. So for me, I think in the next 7 days, that is where we hear two more bids. Two bids officially from clubs. I think Arsenal will place in a bid. He's such a talent. I don't see us go away from there. And with Jora Hato deciding his future a little bit earlier on in the window and confirming that he's going to be staying at Ajax, it's going to be more of Calafiori and Gehi. Gehi is going to stay at the Euros a little bit longer with England, I would anticipate. So I think Arsenal look at this as an opportunity to go and get one of the first signings in the first week in July. So yeah, it could develop quickly. It will develop quickly. Bologna will want an answer. Arsenal, of course, are always very, 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 impatient when it comes to the players they want. They want to get those deals done quickly. Build preseason. We already have a preseason camp in Marbella with Mikel Arteta and a few players that could begin the season. So I won't be surprised if Calafiori is one of those players that actually join up the camp a little bit later on.
I know it sounds like the transfer window has been open. It feels like the transfer window has been open for like 3 months. It's also just 2 weeks. It's not been open for too long. It's been open for the same period that the years has been going on. So
And again,
usually expect a lot of deals. Yeah.
Again, on the 1st of July, it's going to feel like it's just opened.
Yeah. So now that we have like 2 weeks that have passed since the transfer window has opened. People are very desperate to get signings done. Now we're getting into July. I think signings are definitely going to be done, incomings and outgoings. Players are going to leave. Players are going to come back from their holidays. Players are going to come back from the Euros. My focus would have been, let's try and focus on, getting a backup for Saka, midfielder, striker. But a player like Calafiori obviously wouldn't be available for too long. If you want a player like him, you cannot say we're going to come back for him in August. But personally for you, Cozy, knowing that you want a striker, you're happy to get a left winger, take it to the next level. Would you be happy if Arsenal just said, now we're going to focus on Calafiori? And would you be happy if this ended up being our first signing for 50 million, 60 million?
For me, 100%. Now, I think it's an opportunities market these days. And this was predicted by a philosopher called Arsene Wenger many years ago, 10 years ago, around 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when he said that the best talents and the most expensive players and the best players in the market are going to be going for free because they're going to run down their contracts. But the good talents, the ones that are young, are going to be poached, and they're going to be they're going to be off the market when they're 16, 15, 17, 18. So that's why you're looking at the market, and like, apart from Calafiori, really, maybe Gehi and maybe Hato, there are very, very few players that really interest you, players that are really attractive. So I think Arsenal look at it in that way. Arsenal will look at that deal in that way, and I look at that deal in that way. That if we get Italy's best centre back at the Euros, one that has played at left back before, one that has also has a record of playing at centre back successfully for Bologna and for Italy, that is a deal you don't sleep on. I would be happy if he's asked for signing, because I think with Mikel Arteta, again, what I've seen with him as a manager, he works better with players he trusts. He works better with players he calls, this is my left back signing. This is my right back. This is a player I signed for this specific role. If it trusts you for that role, if it trusts you and it trusts the attributes that he saw in you before signing you, he's going to make it work. He's going to die until it makes it work. Unless you're Lokonga, Tavares, and a few players that were I would say you couldn't salvage the situation. But these other players, he's played Kai Havertz out of his bad form. He's played players like Declan Rice until he's found a good position for him. I think Rice really started off very well, but eventually we had to decide, is he a number 6, is he a number 8? And then he's found a position for him. So for me, with Calafiori, the manager trusts him. The manager trusts him at left back, and the manager will trust him in the team. That is why less than 24 hours before, after Italy had dropped out of the Euros, Arsenal have been confirmed to make an inquiry. Now, I'm going to say this. Inquiries are different from scouting. When you scout a player, or when you talk to, a player's friends or this and that, that really doesn't really put you anywhere in terms of the deal. When you inquire, it means that you have told the other club, we want to buy this player. What are the conditions? That's why I say that the Victor Gyökeres deal, keep your eyes on that one. Keep your eyes on that deal, because Arsenal went to Sporting and told them, what are the conditions to sign this deal? Now, you don't tell a person, you don't tell a club, you don't tell an institution, you don't tell a businessman what are the conditions for me to acquire this asset, unless you're in Africa, because in Africa we can literally just walk into a shop and ask for something, and we don't want to buy it, and we don't even have the money. But I think the way transfers work is with Arsenal and how specific we've been in the transfer market. You look at the Declan Rice deal. Inquiries were made in January, bids were made in June, and was it June and July, or June? Both in June. I think both in June.
June.
Yeah, June. You look at Jalen Timber. Inquiries were made in June, and then bids followed after. So I think what Arsenal have just done here is they have just locked into the left back position. And I remember telling you that I won't be surprised if our first signing is either a goalkeeper or a left back, despite the fact that the midfield is like, we want a midfielder, we want a striker. I won't be surprised, because Mikel Arteta has shown us that he's willing to invest money every single season at left back, in defense, and is willing to invest money every single summer in the goalkeeping department if he has to. Since coming to Arsenal, How many goalkeepers has he, brought in now? Around 4 goalkeepers ever since
Mm.
signing as manager, at Arsenal. So yes, this is a deal that I see progress quickly. This is a deal I would be happy to get because that is generational. I don't want these deals to go to Chelsea. I don't want these deals to go to Manchester United because with the new management, United will wake up. And I don't want us to win 1 trophy or 2. I want us to win 3 Premier League titles before Man United can respond.
Yeah, that would be very, very good. Now, a lot of you, maybe some of you are still asking, like, how good is this Calafiori guy? We can go through the stats again. These are his numbers from this particular Euros with Italy. He assisted the equalizer against Croatia in the last minute to take Italy to the next round, although they were terrible. He wasn't there to help them out. He created 4 chances so far in these Euros, passing accuracy 92%. He's won 7 aerial duels, 77% aerial duel success, and 6 interceptions. Now, we've talked about him with Cozy a couple of times, and he's a very, very good defender in terms of defending and getting into tackles and playing left back and playing left center back. And, you know, um, basically defending is very good. It's better than what we have in terms of the left side, like for example Zinchenko, if we play him in that position. But also going forward, he can assist, he can, he can create chances, he can carry the ball, as we've seen from his Bologna season last campaign last year. So he got 5 assists, he created 14 chances, and this is as a centre back, 89% passing accuracy, 60 aerial duels won, that allows that, 71% aerial duel success. So he's good on the ground and also in the air, and 50 interceptions. So a defender who can attack and he can also defend, getting a combination of that is, very, very welcome, because we have a Zinchenko who can, go with the ball forward, pass it, and, dribble it and all that. He can do it well. Tomiyasu is very good in man marking and all that, but Tomiyasu is not the best in terms of like Trent, in terms of attacking, and Zinchenko is not as good as like a Gabriel in terms of defending. So if you get a player with a mixture of both, that would be very great. So we are going to hear a few things about him, obviously, in the next couple of days. His country is now out. Obviously, I'm sure he'll go for a holiday or something like that. But we'll definitely hear progress in this deal. Let's see, by next 1 week, at least 10 days, we're gonna know what is happening with this deal. Now, because one deal that is back in the news all of a sudden is Alexander Isak. Now, breaking news came out on Saturday saying that I think the Premier League has given Newcastle a warning or something. They need to sell players before June 30th, and Newcastle are kind of scrambling. Now, they're already selling someone to Brighton. I think it's called the Minte. I think they're selling Minte.
30 million.
So we don't know how much their debt is or whatever. Maybe that could be enough for them. But, teams like Arsenal and Chelsea have come in, and we've also had that Chelsea are not really interested in him that much in the last couple of hours. But this is the latest on Isak. Newcastle need to sell before June 30th, which is today, to comply with profit and sustainability rules or risk a Premier League points deduction. And sources have confirmed that selling Anthony Gordon, albeit reluctantly, is one avenue that has been explored. Now, that's the first part. I just want to show you the first part of Newcastle need to sell. Now, on Isak, one sale which Newcastle are hugely reluctant to countenance, my goodness, is the potential departure of Alexander Isak. Newcastle would only consider selling him as a last resort, with Chelsea believing they would have to pay some 100 million to have a chance at securing him. So this was a couple of hours ago. After this, we've had Chelsea outlets confirming that Chelsea are not really interested in him. And the time you're interested in Isak, we were told 180 million just to pick up the phone, not even to make a deal, to pick up the phone. And you thought that is too crazy. So they're basically saying 200 million for Isak. Now that they need to sell, if we go in with an offer of 100 million, do you think they'd be tempted, or do you think we are wasting our time with this one?
There's no chance they're going to sell. I think with Newcastle, what they're trying to do, they're trying to stay afloat, but they're also trying to sell their project. And they did a good job by selling this project to Guimaraes, selling this project to Steven Botman, selling this project to Trippier, Isak, my Italian, AC Milan captain who eventually joined them, Toney. They did a very good job. So they're not looking to undo the work they did. They're looking to straighten their way. They're looking to straighten their path. And I also think that they're not short of players they could sell in order to cover the gap. So Isak, anyone who wants to go and sign Isak, at the moment, that would be if it is the last resort. Like if they really have to sell. So this would be because they don't have any other options, and of course they do. Liverpool want Gordon. Gordon wants Liverpool. That could be a deal that they could do. Trippier and Trippier to AC Milan has been discussed in detail, according to Fabrizio Romano, and a couple of other deals have also been discussed. We've just talked about Yankumba Minte, who has been, pronounced a Brighton player today by Fabrizio Romano. He's already said, "Here we go." So for 30 million. So probably they need to make another 30 million. Probably they need to make another, 40 million. 40 million doesn't make you sell your best asset at the moment. I don't think that they're looking to sell their best asset in Alexander Isak just to cover up 40 million or to cover up 30 million. I could even say Newcastle might be willing to go and get that point deduction. If they can't offload anyone, they could go and get that point deduction, maybe 10 points, maybe 20. How many did Everton get? Around 16 points? I think around 16 points. So they could
they changed it a lot. I think it was eventually down to less than 10.
Yeah. So they could stomach that 9-point deduction. They could stomach that 10-point deduction. I'm not saying they will, just to keep Alexander Isak. If I was Newcastle, I would do it, right? I wouldn't really just let go of my best asset because there is pressure for 30 million. But when you look at that Newcastle squad, they've got players they could sell. I didn't know about Minte, but at least I know that Gordon is wanted by Liverpool, and that's a deal. That's an easy deal you could do.
Now that you brought that up, is there any asset from Newcastle worth around 35 million that you'd be tempted to, let's go and take this or not, that they have a problem?
35 million.
Almiron?
No, not really.
Callum Wilson?
No, not really. I go as well. I think those are Saudi Arabian
Lewis
signings.
Hall?
I do like Lewis Hall. I really, really do. But again, no, I wouldn't. Actually, to be honest, the player I would go and get at Newcastle, the two players I would get from Newcastle are both higher than 50 million. That's Gimaresh, and Isak. Now, I do like Harvey Barnes. If Arsenal maybe are really interested in Harvey Barnes, we could see, right? Maybe 30 million, right? So that one I could, Harvey Barnes. And that actually tells you how much depth they've got. Joe Willock, what is he doing there? Almiron as well. They could cash in and upgrade on. The thing they have at Newcastle is they have so many upgradable players that will be upgraded on by force or by circumstance, right? In the future, you don't expect, Almiron and, whoever to be the star players at Newcastle. The project is going to demand changes. The project is going to demand, a couple of upgrades. So for me, I don't see Isak, sold. No.
Ban. I think you put Ban in that level of Almiron. Would you be tempted by Ban?
No.
Now, Newcastle, they can definitely easily upgrade. Now that we did a video with Kozi last night. Make sure to check out that live stream. He's brought up Harvey Barnes and Isak. We talked about which players we take from every team, and both of those players were mentioned. So go and check that one out. His link will be in the title. But first, Kozi, Isak, if it developed somehow, we talked about Sesko, Gyökeres, and Osimhen, and you said Osimhen would be the one that you take. Now, if we throw in Isak into that list, would Isak go straight away and be a number one ahead of Osimhen?
Ahead of Osimhen, yes, because I don't like Osimhen's, character. I don't like it. I think he's bit of a hothead. He's fallen out with the manager.
We'll be talking about that in this video.
Yeah. He's falling out with the manager at Nigeria. He's falling out with the manager at at Napoli. So I think Isak, because also Mikel Arteta, I look at that element. Does Mikel Arteta like you? Does he trust you? Does he is he crazy about you? Mikel Arteta has followed Alexander Isak for quite some time, and we just made a blip. A mistake when we thought Isak was too expensive in 2021. We thought it was too expensive. We went with Dusan Vlahovic. The same amount of money Isak cost was the same amount of money that Vlahovic would have cost us, and we didn't channel that money into Alexander Isak. That was the mistake. But for me, he straight away goes into my number one, Premier League proven, number one. Secondly, he is a forward. And when you look at forwards at Arsenal, how many goals is Saka getting? How many goals is Trossard getting? There was a season under Mikel Arteta where Smith Rowe did get record high career goals, in his career. It tells you something. You don't have to be, a perfectly shaped number 9 for you to bang in the goals for Mikel Arteta. The system itself opens up channels and opens up spaces for you to occupy. If you're intelligent like Isak, you're going to occupy those spaces. Now, again, he's not that clinical finisher I think Arsenal are looking for. But when I look at what we have right now, I'm like, he is still developing. He's 23, 24. I think by the time he gets to 26, we'll have a real striker on our hands right here.
I definitely agree. Very, very good striker. He can score a lot of different goals. We've seen him
Yeah.
performing at 3 different countries. In Germany for Dortmund, in Spain for Sociedad. He's played before with Odegaard. They have a bit of a connection there. At Newcastle, he's been incredible. I don't think he's injury prone like a Callum Wilson or like players like that. He's gotten a
But
couple of injuries here
his
and there.
injury worrying a little bit. I think
Yeah, a
they're not
bit, yeah,
worrying, but
but
there is a concern. They're concerning.
yeah, yeah. So that is always a problem with the injury. So 150, 60 million for a player who can pick up an injury is usually a problem. You can only pay that kind of money for players like Declan Rice who just
Declan
play
Rice,
every
yeah.
single game, or you can splash 50, 60 million. Even if the quality is not high, you at least know Conor Gallagher is going to play every single game. Then you can be like, okay, it's always going to be available. Now I'm going to go straight to the Osimhen stuff because you brought him up. Now, something that came out today is this, because I don't know if you've come across it. According to Team News and Ticks, there's 2 players this season Arsenal spoke to in the early part of this year that the club just didn't like. Be it Arteta or other people at the club didn't like them. So those moves never materialized. That's probably more common than people think. Now, yes, we write 180 pages about every single player before we end up signing them and all that. Do you reckon we dig in too much and we're missing out on very good players because of, maybe you could argue, a couple of small things, people would say?
Not really. Not really. I think Mikel Arteta decided against signing Yuri Tillemans and he decided Declan Rice because Yuri Tillemans loses the ball and he stands and he's not a workhorse that works for 90 minutes. So did we make a right decision there? Yes. Creatively, like Tillemans is better, right? Better than Declan Rice. But overall, in terms of mentality, in terms of character, in terms of leadership, in terms of work rate, Declan Rice is by far the admirable player. Declan Rice works into most of the teams in the world right now. Yuri Tillemans surely doesn't, and both of them are really talented footballers. So, do we really dig into sometimes? At times, I think we do dig in. Sometimes, at times, I'm like the Housem Awadeo. The reasons why we missed that player was not really for reasons I can call justifiable. I think if I replace Edu with George Mendes, that deal gets done, right? Because it was not about the player's attitude, it was not about the player's problems, it was not about the player not being convinced about Arsenal. It was the player's brother. So that is maybe a little bit of Edu and Mikel Arteta looking at the people around you, and they're like, if the people around you are like this, then you're probably a problem. So that's maybe where I would say, yeah, they dug into a little bit there that was unnecessary. But when you think about the things that Arsenal, puts at priority, apart from you fitting in, you've got to be able to have the mentality and the character and the discipline to work with players, with other people as a team. Mikel Arteta always says this. It is what players do when they're not on the pitch to support the team that really, really makes him have difficult decisions. And Ramsdale has done that very well. We've seen so many times Ramsdale having that positive attitude. Yes,
El
the
Neni.
mid and El Neni as well. There are times when the media just picks on these players for nothing. Ramsdale is not a bad goalkeeper who was, put out of the starting 11. Not his fault. He's not a bad goalkeeper. Maybe he doesn't concentrate for 90 minutes, and maybe on one podcast you don't say that. You don't say that you can't concentrate for 90 minutes as a goalkeeper. Like, we are trying to chase titles. How dare you say that? Publicly. But I think everything they look at is the player married what kind of relationships are you running? What do you do at night? Do you play video games like Skamaka, or do you go to sleep? uh, it really matters. When you lose the ball, what do you do? When your fellow teammates lose the ball, are you trying to close them down, to close down for them, or are you trying to point to them and like blame them? Are you playing the blame game, right? And that's something I didn't like with Aaron Ramsdale. Every time we
Mhm.
conceded, he looked for someone to blame. So, I mean, there's some players we'll talk about, but there's some players I've looked at and I'm like, he never takes the blame. And not even Arsenal
Mm.
players. This guy never takes the blame. Like Bruno Fernandes, he's either pointing at the referee, he's either pointing at the fourth official, he's either pointing at VAR or the liner. He has something to complain about. I don't think Mikel Arteta and Edu are looking at that mentality. I think we're looking at the mentality of a Manchester City. When a Manchester City player goes down, there is a free kick, regardless of whether they have been touched or not. Because how many times do Manchester City players really, really go down? Actually, I would say that last season, I saw kind of a record high, tons of Manchester City players really going down. But Pep has built that team in a way that they're so fierce that you try to shrug Kevin De Bruyne off the ball, and because he knows your commitment is to put him down. So if he skips that challenge, he's left you behind, and you're behind in the game. He's taken out of the game. So and he's gone. So for me, no, I think every single thing they look into off the pitch and on the pitch is 100% very, very important. You don't want to bring in party animals, from Brazil that have hangover on match day, or on match days in the afternoon.
Oh yeah, players like Bruno Fernandes would probably have a difficult time at Arsenal, and even someone like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, I think would be too much for Mateta. Like players like that wouldn't fit at all, and there's a lot more. Probably they write about wages. Are you going to complain after 1 year that you want to increase
Mhm.
wages better than this player? If you're on the bench for 2 games, are you going to complain and all that? There's a
Yeah.
lot they look at now. Two. They've said two players. They've said that
Yeah.
there's two players that we've looked at this year. I am pretty sure one of them is this guy. You would agree?
100%. 100%.
And it's Ivan Toney. So, do you think if you're to take his attitude away and all the things that he's done for the band and everything, do you think he's a good player just on the pitch that he'd fit at Arsenal if we ignore everything else?
Excellent player. Excellent, excellent center forward. Now, I think for me, with Ivan Toney, he's a little bit unlucky with whatever has unraveled in his life, because it has just brought a lot of negative energy and a lot of negative media and a lot of negative criticism onto him. And at this point in times in your life, that's when most of the negative attributes come out. Like when he was scoring the 22 goals, we're looking at this guy, his center forward play, this guy, the link up with Mbuemo, this guy, he's the heartbeat for Brentford, the way he presses and all that. And then this happens, and everything that's coming out is absolutely, absolutely negative. So for me, when I detach every sentiment of him and I look at him as a footballer, apart from Manchester City, he starts in any other Premier League team. So let's
Mm,
get that 22, was it 22, 20 goal season?
mm.
And let's carry that 20 goal season. Is there a team where he doesn't fit in that season, apart from Tottenham, who had Ken, and Man City, who had Erling Haaland?
He fits into any team. He
Yep.
scores some goals. The only thing people would say, the same criticism people say with Palmer, is whatever, 8, 9 of them in the penalties. But penalties are still goals. You still need to take the penalty, you still need to
I
score
mean,
it.
I've always told people that I have watched Spain for
Mm,
like 3, 4, consecutive times, miss like 4 penalties out of 5 in a shootout, and it is like
mm,
consistent. Penalties are, as long as you take it well, as long as you, I think he has like a 99%,
mm.
99.9 accuracy. He's missed one, right? So
Yeah,
as
and
long
it
as
was
you
very
take them,
recent. Yeah.
yeah, and he does win them. By the way, that's one
Mm.
thing people forget. He does win them.
Yeah, in terms of aerial ability and putting the ball in the box, is very, very good at
Yeah.
all that. And we've seen him scoring like 3 free kicks as well. In terms of mentality and quickness, like moving the ball a bit in a free kick and getting an advantage. Like he has that about him.
Mm,
Now he's the player that you've said, one player. Who do you reckon could be the second player? As you think about that, let's bring in Osimhen as you think about that. Now,
mm.
Osimhen obviously is another one that you've been linked to, and there's a bit of arguments with the coach when he gets subbed off at Napoli, arguing live streams like about the coach in Nigeria and all that. Now, for him, do you think we'd be looking too much into him? You just think he's a good striker, ignore everything, or do you think we are, we actually there's a word I'm trying to look for, but it's disappeared. But basically, we're doing the right thing by looking at his attitude because he'd come and affect the team.
Now, with Victor Osimhen, his price and his wages would bring an ego. So you want that ego to be you want a player with with that wage bill and with that money to have a tamed ego, like a bit of Declan Rice. When you look at Rice, you might not know that he earns 260,000 plus at
He's
Arsenal.
so calm, yeah. He's so.
You might not know that he cost 105 million. When you look at him from England and you look at Jude Bellingham, you can easily know that Jude Bellingham cost 100 million, to a club like Madrid, and he's a Champions League winner. And he's right to boast. He's right to boast around it, but there's a big difference. And I'm not saying Jude Bellingham's attitude is a problem. I'm saying that for a manager like Southgate, it's a big problem because he doesn't have the respect to to shut him down like a manager like Carlo Ancelotti. So Osimhen, when you're going to sign him for almost 90, 80 million, he's going to come into that squad and he's going to look at every other player as, guys, I was brought in for 90 million. I've brought in for 80 million. I was brought in to win the title. I'm the key difference. And he's earning 300,000 a week or 270 or 90,000 a week. That's going to be a problem. So for him to come in on those wages, he's got to be absolutely humble, absolutely tamed, absolutely disciplined. I don't think he's tamed. I don't think he's humble. I don't think he's disciplined. His live stream, I didn't get much about. Some of the language. The language was in Nigerian. The other was in English. The other was in Pidgin. But one of the words I got was, "No one is going to tell me what to do." That's it, and that is to his manager. So if you're Mikel Arteta and you've chased Aubameyang and you've chased Ozil, Osimhen before he joins Arsenal, looks like he's chased himself out
That
of
could be
Arsenal.
that could be a big problem, and people would ignore that. But in terms of the team, the group, they don't just ignore that. They look at all that. The attitude. Are you going to complain about if you're benched for one game and all that? Now, another thing they've mentioned on this cause is at be it Arteta or other people at the club. Now, do you think apart from Arteta, there's someone else, and who could that be?
Now,
Like just the assistants? Do you think they have a say? Because those assistants are really involved. Like a set piece coach and our assistant, they are really involved. Do you think they could be part of that, or other people?
Well, Edu said it is a team. He said that recently. He said we make this decision as a team. It's not Edu or Arteta. It's a team. We have a team. You look at Jova. He's the set pieces coach. If Jova says don't sign Benito Silva, my set piece strategy doesn't really work with him, you won't sign for Arsenal despite the fact that you're that good. So I think with Arsenal, it's a pool of guys that are trying to make that unanimous decision, because if it is 10 people, I think the goalkeeping department have their say on goalkeepers. I think the defensive coaches have their say on defenders. The attacking coaches have their say on attack, and the midfield coaches also have their say on on midfielders as well. And then Edu and Mikel Arteta, what they do, they aggregate all those opinions, they weigh, and they're like, "Hey guys, can we agree that despite the fact that he is, he smokes, he still scores goals?" And the rest of the team says, as long as he smokes, he doesn't come anywhere our dressing room, and then you don't sign for us. So I think it's a big
Carlos
decision.
Cuesta. I think it's called Carlos Cuesta. There's one who sits down with players one-on-one and talks to them.
Yes.
Now, if he says, no, I didn't like this and this, I think Arteta really trusts in their opinion.
Yeah,
Trust say, okay, if my assistant will say that, there's another one called Miguel Molina and Jova, and Steinberg and all those guys. I think they all have a say. Apart from
Yeah.
the coaching team, do you think the board in any way have a say?
I wouldn't say that the board have a say in terms of someone's discipline and someone's behavior. I think the board have a say in, we are putting our money in this guy. What is the chances that we will bring it back, or what's the chances that we won't have to invest in that same area, of the pitch at the same time? That's why that you look at a player like Partey. He's a cost to Mikel Arteta. Mikel Arteta told the board that I could do work with this guy for 7 years, right? And he's broken down, right? You look at players like Nuno Tavares; those are investments. I think the Arsenal board, regardless of how much money we have spent recently, we still have the economic sense. If we bring in a player like Nuno Tavares at 8 million, he would save us hundreds of millions to we would have spent on Riccardo Calafiori. If Nuno Tavares right now was on top of his game, representing Portugal, like the likes of Nuno Mendes, do you think would be going for Calafiori? No, we wouldn't. So I think that the board has a very, very big say in terms of the financial position of the club. Yes, we'll invest 90 million in Osimhen. He's 25. He has a track record of scoring goals, and if he gets to 27, there's a big chance that a club like Madrid or a club like Bayern or a club like Barcelona will come in and will contemplate whether to sell him or keep him. And even if we don't sell at 25, he can, by the time he's 33, he has had 8 seasons at the top, and probably he's actually given us some silverware. He's helped us to qualify for the Champions League, and that is how our money is actually going to come back. So I think they do have a say, but I think that they're more interested in the financial sense, and then us, Ateta, Edu, and the coaching staff, they do the housekeeping.
And that's one thing that makes me so happy about Arsenal right now. And whenever I hear
Yeah.
people saying, sack this one, do this, I'm like, you're crazy. Because we've basically given the team to Edu and the people who know football, to control that part of it.
Yeah.
And why can't we do this like Chelsea? Why can't we sign Chelsea? Have two sporting directors, debating about which player to get, and then there's Egg Barley coming in, and then there's Todd Burley coming in, and then there is, I think, Feliciano coming in with an opinion, and then someone else comes in with an opinion, and then the
Chelsea,
coach has an opinion.
Chelsea signed
Crazy.
Chelsea signed 10 different profiles of players for a manager. They don't know who is going to manage them.
Now that is a big problem. So the Atsene do have control of the team, and they can discuss this with the assistant managers who are on the pitch. Now back to this. Who do you think the second player is apart from Toney? Do you reckon it's Osimhen, or you don't think they've had that much of a discussion with Osimhen? And who could that second player be, though?
Well, centre forward has been a big position at Arsenal in terms of discussing who comes in this summer. So Osimhen could definitely be a big big possibility that he's a player that they don't like, especially now that the scandal with the manager at the national team comes in very, very recently. Like, that didn't really do him a lot of good, right? But I thought of two players when you asked me. I thought, first and foremost, I thought about Martin Zubimendi. This is a player that we've liked a lot, and it was said by Christian Folk that there was something that Arsenal didn't like about him, and he also said that even for footballing reasons, Arsenal decided not to pursue him. Not to pursue Martin Zubimendi. The other player I thought about was Joshua Zirkzee. And with Joshua Zirkzee, I think for 34 million, for you to be among the top players Arsenal are looking at, even before the summer started, Fabrizio was already confirming. Even David Onstein throughout the summer has been saying they've looked at Zirkzee, but they're unlikely to go and make that deal. The question is why? They've scouted you, they've wanted you. I think there is something they didn't like about Joshua Zirkzee, maybe. But I think the one that I'm really, really intrigued about to know about is Martin Zubimendi. Liked by Mikel Arteta since he came in at Arsenal. We've followed him. His release clause is as low as possible. Maybe he doesn't want to leave the Basque region. Maybe that, but we don't have 100% conclusive evidence. He strikes me as the player that Arsenal and Edu have looked at, and they're like, no, he's got a Yuri Tillemans element. I'm not going to bring him in.
Now, I thought about Subimendi as well, and then I also thought
Mm.
about another player. I thought Douglas Luiz, another player who's been linked to us for a long time, and then all of a sudden we didn't want him. All of a sudden it went quiet
Yeah,
again,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we
yeah.
didn't want him. And he asked me a question a month ago, like, why didn't we, try to go for
You
him?
know?
And so that could be another reason, you never know. If they're also looking at families and stuff, they could be like this new girlfriend to Douglas Luiz. Does he have
Yeah.
an effect on this and that? There's a lot they look at. So it becomes a problem. But let us know what you guys make of that. That's a very interesting topic in terms of which players they go for. Lastly, let's finish with Emil Smith Rowe. Now, we were told that Emil Smith Rowe could end up wanting to leave Arsenal. He might have asked to leave Arsenal. But all of a sudden, Cozy, this is the news that we are getting today. Emil Smith Rowe is keen to stay at Arsenal despite being available for a reduced price of £25 million. So, again, we're not really sure whether he wants to stay or he wants to leave. Does he want to stay or does he want to leave? It's a very complicated one. But do you think he might actually want to stay?
I think there is a big possibility that he will want to stay. I don't think that Emil Smith Rowe is eager to join another club. I think he's eager to get game time. So the conversation from him to Mikel Arteta and Edu and whoever is in charge is, I want to play more. I want to appear on the green grass more, and under the commentatorship of whoever will be commentating. I want to play more. UEFA Champions League, Premier League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup. I do not care. I want to play more. And I think that is where Arsenal have a very big advantage on this deal. That the player is 100% sold onto the idea of being an Arsenal legend, being an Arsenal diehard, being an Arsenal, long-term serving player. He's not looking to join Crystal Palace. He's not. Fabregas who wants to desperately join Barcelona. No, his Barcelona is Arsenal. His Madrid is Arsenal. His Bayern is Arsenal. So he wants to be there. The problem is that the loyalty he's showing to the club is not being reciprocated. So I think it's 100% true that he would consider staying. It's 100% true that he would consider giving Arsenal, one chance, two chances, three chances, four chances. If the manager is transparent and truthful and honest, I'm going to give you game time, but at the moment, you don't start ahead of A, B, C, D. But if you do this and this and this, and other players don't do it, I am sure you're going to be starting ahead of them. So he's going to ask the manager one question. Martinelli had a kind of a blip last season. If Martinelli has the same blip and Trossard doesn't perform at the top level, do I become Trossard's backup, or do I have a chance to starting ahead of them? Do I have a chance to start ahead of Saka? Do I have a chance to start ahead of Odegaard if they're not performing at the top level, right? Because there's a time when Kai Havertz wasn't playing at the topmost level, and he was played through his bad patch of form. So he's gonna ask, do I get the same privileges as a player, as a shirt number 10 holder, as the replacement of Dennis Bergkamp? Do I have the same privileges of, Odegaard is having a bad season. He's played 13 games. Emil Smith Rowe has had a very good season, has played 30 games, and he's scored 10 goals and assisted 17 times. So I think that is where the conversation is going to become difficult for Edwin Mikel Arteta to indulge in.
Now, we talked about Smith Rowe for like a whole 30-minute segment like a week ago, and we tried to look for a position where Smith Rowe is going to play,
Yeah,
and
that's
we
the
had a
problem.
hard time. It's not going to be right. It's not going to be done to replace Odegaard. Odegaard does a lot more in terms of that team. Could
Yeah.
he be the number 8? But no, if Rice is the one who's going to play there, Rice cannot be on the bench. Could he be on the left side, as you've mentioned? It could be. But do you think if you tell him, okay, you're going to get game time, we'll be lying to him?
We will be
Or do you
lying to
think
him.
with the Carabao Cup
Mm.
and FA Cup this time, you can give him game time in those?
We will be lying to him. We'll be lying to him.
Mm.
The thing is, Arsenal will add a forward, and that is going to make things very complicated. We are going to see more casualties in this Arsenal side than salvaged carriers. So if Fabio Vieira is sitting there and is thinking, "This is my season," you're wrong. If Emil Smith Rowe is there, or Rhys Nelson or Edin Ketia, and they think, "This is my season to show the Arsenal fans that I'm this good," you're wrong. You're not going to have the platform. you're not going to have the chance to show us how good you are or how determined you are. Because when Gabriel Martinelli comes back, he will start ahead of you. When Saka comes back, it's 100%. When Rice and Odegaard come back, 100% confirmed they're going to play ahead of you. So Arsenal in this team, we have around one or two spots that you can say they're really up for grabs. Can I really, really, take the advantage? Left back, where we have Jalen Timber. We've not actually given up on him yet. The other position is the first and second substitution. Because it has been for Trossard and who else? I
Virginia,
think
Kivia.
Trossard and Trossard, Jorginho, and Kivio. So maybe if you want to be among the top substitutes, yeah, there's an opportunity there. But if you want really to break into this Arsenal starting 11, this is starting 11 that I can see going for 5 years strong with a manager that trusts them, and nothing has changed unless we make specific signings that Calafiori comes in at left back. Therefore, everyone at left back. We brought in a left back. You can find anywhere to play. We brought in a DM to replace Partey, and therefore anyone that was looking to take that opportunity, you've got to know that we have an in-house DM. Apart from that, for me, I think we will be lying to ESR that is going to play more games. He will appear more times, no question about that. But if you're appearing for 10 games, so 10 minutes, 7 minutes, 17 minutes, are you really impacting games to the extent that Southgate is going to be, wow, oh, this guy's playing 10 minutes. Let me call him. I don't think so.
So you're very, very spot on now. Listen, if you were to keep Havertz, Jesus, Trossard, Martinelli, Smith Rowe, I'd be very happy. And I'd be like, oh, more options, I'd be very happy. But there's part of me that feels, yeah, we're definitely not going to keep all of them.
Yeah.
We will have bench players. Hopefully, we do have, we go further in the FA Cup and Carabao Cup and we have space for these players to play. Hopefully, we can advance in the Champions League and, maybe a couple of them gets a few games to play. That would be great. But that's not to make us Smith Rowe. Last one on him, Cozy. Are you happy, though, to hear that he's keen on staying?
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that he wants to stay because he's one of those players that you just can't go to the market and get him. Emil Smith Rowe is not a player that, like, I've looked at Conceição and I've looked at Pedro Goncalves and I looked at Fabio Vieira and I'm like, if I lose Fabio Vieira, I could get Conceição. If I lose Conceição, I could get Pedro Goncalves. Emil Smith Rowe is not one of those players that you just go and get. It's a bit of like Grealish, and then he's a bit like a creative midfielder. His
I mean, they
ability
call
on the
him De
ball as
Bruyne.
well. His dribbling. It's not an easy talent just to pick up, and it's not if he was an important player for a team, he wouldn't be one to replace. So yeah, I'm happy that he wants to stay. Let's see what happens. And that 25 million, no, I don't think we're 25 million. Come on.
It's gone down from 40 to 35 to 30 to 25. Definitely not for 25 million. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch up with you on the next one.